Hi and welcome to Israel Update. On today's show, I'm wanting to show you something that's a little bit different. The teaching that you're about to watch is one based on radical Islam, and it's all about a specific branch of radical Islam known as the Twelvers. Now, this topic and this content is a little more intense than what we would normally put out on our Israel Update show, but I wanted you to catch a glimpse of what it's like and what the teachings are like contained within our Israel partnership. And so I really hope you enjoy this, and let's go to that teaching right now. Hi, and welcome to you, our amazing Israel partners. You know, without you guys, nothing that we do would be possible, and you are amazing, and I just wanted to say thank you. We are so grateful for your support, so grateful for your faithfulness and your loyalty. You are awesome. So today, I'm continuing on in this theme of Islam, and obviously this is where we're able to get a little bit more controversial. It's in this kind of context, the safe space, that we're able to get a little bit more controversial. But today I decided to jump in, and we're going straight into understanding what the threat actually is. Because it's all good and well to understand, okay, there's a problem, there's a danger when it comes to radical Islam. And we've looked at some of the numbers, how 19 people changed the course of the world because they weren't afraid to die for what they believed in. And I'm speaking, of course, about the 19 suicide bombers that attacked America during 9/11, that flew into the Twin Towers and everything surrounding that. But today I want to talk to you about the doctrine of the Twelvers. Now, you may have heard of this, you may never have heard of this, but I'm just kind of rapid firing going through. This is a deep passion that I have for us to understand the eschatology, or the end time doctrine and belief system surrounding radicalized Islamists, specifically those that are in power. Now, Christians believe that, the second coming is going to take place, that Jesus is going to rapture us. There's obviously all this debate about whether or not, the millennial reign of Christ is literary, whether it's figurative. There's all these different things up and down, but we do agree that Jesus died, rose again, was resurrected, ascended into heaven, and that he's coming back for us. We agree on that. And we believe that, his bride is going to be without spot, wrinkle, or blemish, that his bride is going to be ready as one, as this group of us united, ready for him to come. The whole Bible ends off with the book of Revelation say, and the spirit of the bride say, come, even so, come Lord Jesus. That's how the Bible ends for us. So there's this expectation and this excitement that when Jesus comes, peace will come, and his rule and reign and his kingdom come will be here and established, and all pain and sorrow and sighing and suffering will go away forever. And we're excited about that. When the trumpet goes, when the sky splits in two, opens like a scroll, he's there waiting, ready to come take us back. This is something I think about quite often, and I'm excited about. Can you tell? But I think it is incredibly important that we are aware of the eschatology, or end-time doctrinal belief system of the people that are running Iran. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but I'm not going to go into all the complicated stuff. I'm going to give you the basics. People like Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who used to be the Iranian president, the Ayatollah Khamenei, who was responsible in large part for the 1979 revolution in Iran. These people are part of a belief system of Shia Islam called the Twelvers. Now, what the Twelvers believe, and I'm giving you the nutshell version of it, they believe that they are awaiting the return of the 12th Imam, also known as the hidden Imam, also called the Mahdi, and that they are waiting for his return to come to earth, and that when he returns to earth, Islamic law, Sharia law, will be established, and that the entire earth will be subjugated or subject to Islamic law, that all infidels will be killed, that you will be given an option, that all Christians are going to be given an option to convert to Islam or die. All Jews, unfortunately, just get killed. They don't get given that option. I'm talking about this specific belief system. But you're talking about a group of people. It really is. Joel Rosenberg, who's one of my favorite authors, described them as a homicidal death cult. And that really is what it is. That is what these imams are teaching and what the belief system is. But they believe that they are awaiting the return of the Islamic Messiah, the Mahdi, the 12th Imam, and that when he comes back to earth, he will come and Jesus will be his lieutenant, and Jesus will go around the earth with him, telling people, you need to convert to this way of thinking, convert or you're going to die. Isn't that exciting? It is also taught in this branch of belief in the Quran and in other writings that in order for the 12th Imam to return, in order for the Mahdi to return, there has to be global catastrophe. And when there is global catastrophe, when there is global chaos, when everything is just a complete and total disaster, destructive mess, that is when he will return. That is how he is summoned to return and impose and subjugate the earth according to Islamic law. Now, if I were to ask you, how would you cause global catastrophe? How would you cause global destruction? Nuclear war. That's how. It's never been possible before except in this generation and in the last however many years it's been. But nuclear war. Imagine a third world war that was nuclear. Think about all the people that died in the First and Second World War. Think about the Holocaust. Think about all of those things. What this group of people, these genocidal, homicidal 12ers, people with a lot of power, the supreme leader of Iran is one of these people who believes in this. Why do you think Iran is working so feverishly to acquire nuclear weapons? It's because they want to start a nuclear world war. Now again, I can almost feel people going, what? On the other side of the camera. Just because we're Western, just because we wander around in our air-conditioned malls or not so air-conditioned studios, and just because we wander around and do what we do, and we're not really prepared to live to the extreme for anything, so it is completely beyond us to contemplate that somebody would be prepared to die for it. Just because we don't share their belief system doesn't mean that it's not real to them. You know, Christians back in the day, the first Christians were martyrs. If you look at all the greats, they were out of the 11 disciples that were left after Judas, only John didn't die a torturous death. Every single one of them died a martyr's death. And martyrdom was kind of part and parcel. It was a risk you took to be somebody who believed in Jesus. When God came and called Paul, when he called him, one of the things that he said to him was, I'm going to show you how much you have to suffer on account of my name. Now I think we've fallen a very far way from Christians, from true Christianity, from where we were a group of people once upon a time who shed our blood because of what we believed in, to now desperately trying to get somebody to just abide by some of the moral absolutes of God can feel impossible. You're speaking to a very tired person who has tried for many years to be in youth work, and there's nothing quite like trying to keep teenagers on the straight and narrow to make you a little bit tired. But you know, if you just compare the average kind of church culture in the West versus the culture of the mosques in the East or in the Middle East, they're worlds apart. On the one hand, you have this group of kids that have a very nominal sort of belief in, you know, if they're asked to write down on a form, hey, what are you? It's like, well, I think I'm a Christian because that's what my parents are. And then you've got this other group, a lot of whom have learned the entire Quran by the age of 5, who are prepared to run into death because they believe that is the highest calling. Now, I know that's probably a little bit controversial and maybe a little upsetting, but it's the truth. It's where we're at. And so we need to understand that the reason that there is such a feverish fervor, intensity, insanity about acquiring nuclear weapons, the reason for that is because there is a desire with the leaders of Iran, no matter how democratic they may appear when they're on, you know, news channels. The core belief system is that there is a waiting for the 12th Imam to return, and that the way to do that is to cause global destruction and chaos. That sounds very far away from a lot of us, and I know it's something that we couldn't even contemplate, but it's real. There are around 2 billion Muslims in the world right now. And if even only 1% of them believed this and were prepared to die for it, you're looking at an astronomical number of people. And so when you're hearing us talk on our Israel Update channel, when you're hearing us talk on this partnership about the dangers of Islam, the importance of understanding the times in which we live, we have to be aware that although there is a desire for peace, a desire for democracy, a desire for everything to be fair and square, and we celebrate capitalism in a lot of places in the world, the 12ers do not share that sentiment. They do not celebrate democracy. They want to subjugate democracy. They do not want to see democracy being celebrated or practiced in any part of the Muslim world. There is a desire in this specific branch of Islam to come in and to gain control, for a caliphate to be established. The caliphate is what they want, a desire that they have for the entire earth to be dominated, subjugated, and run with Islamic law and rule. Some parts of Sharia law are really intense that I think a lot of people don't always understand it. And now I'm going to go on a little rabbit trail here. I'd like to know what a lot of the kind of leftists would do. Let's just say, for instance, there is a Muslim baker who refuses to bake a wedding cake for a gay couple. Then who do you back? Because you can hold up your signpost and picket fence sign that says Islam is peaceful and tolerant, but if you have a radical Islamist, in Islamic countries, homosexuals are killed, not celebrated. And so there is an inability to marry all of these different concepts in the name of tolerance. It can't happen. And so the same feminists, and I mean, listen, I'm all about equality. I completely believe that God made man and woman equal. I'll get into a whole thing on that at another time. But what I'm saying is this. You cannot try and say that you want equality for women in Muslim nations when it's under Sharia law in Muslim nations that when a woman is raped, she is said to be the person that is at fault. And generally there are honor killings that take place because she has brought shame and disgrace onto her family because she was raped. Female circumcision is a very normal part of Sharia law. I won't freak you out with all the details of that, but it's a reality for hundreds of millions of girls around the world. Sharia law does not have any room for democracy. Sharia law does not have any place for women. Sharia law does not have any place for fair, open trials. In Sharia law, the imams are judge, jury, and executioner. And that is the way of life that they want to see returned to. Under Sharia law, child marriage is encouraged because men are celebrated, and if a 90-year-old man wants to marry a 6-year-old little girl, that's allowed. Again, these are things that would probably disgust us at immediate thought, but this is what is propagated. Now again, I'm not talking about all Muslims. I'm not talking about the peaceful majority. But as Brigitte Gabriel, who's another one of my favorite authors, spoke about when she was speaking to a specific audience, she said the peaceful majority are irrelevant because it's never the peaceful majority that end up causing things to take place in history like the Holocaust. I'm actually going to show you that clip in a minute. I want you to see what Brigitte Gabriel had to say to this one Islamic lady who stood up and kind of tried to, point her finger at the West, and see what Brigitte Gabriel had to say about that. So that video, you can watch that. I'll make sure that that's at the end of the specific teaching. What I'm trying to say to you is this. I know I've been a little bit all over the place, but it's just a very deep passion that I have. We have to understand that the Iranian regime is hell-bent and completely intent and prepared to risk as many lives as possible. In fact, will gladly send their children out to die in order to see global catastrophe take place upon the earth so that their eschatological viewpoint can be fulfilled, so that their belief system, which is that this hidden Imam or Mahdi or 12th Imam is going to return to earth and subjugate the entire earth to the rule and will of Islam. That is what we are dealing with. This is not just political, this is spiritual. This is about the fact that there is a war going on right now between God and the enemy. always has been since the beginning of time. This is what has been raging. Now, the enemy is not the opposite of God, because in order to be the opposite, you have to be equal. He's not. He's just a created being. But there is a certain amount of power and rule that he's been given on the earth for a time such as this. And right now we are seeing that he is using this belief system in order to bring destruction to the earth. That is the desire of the 12ers. Their desire is for global catastrophe, and that is the reason that they are working so hard to get hold of nuclear weaponry, because they want to see World War break out in a nuclear capacity. And one of the things that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad basically said, I'm paraphrasing, is that their goal is to be able to accomplish in a minute what Hitler took years to accomplish. Their goal would be to vaporize and obliterate Israel off the face of the earth. That is their desire. That's what we're fighting. That is the belief system, the eschatology that we are facing. That is the reality of what is going on in parts of the world that are not like ours. And so let me encourage you, pray. Ask God to show you, ask God to reveal to you what it is that he's doing in the earth today, and ask God to awaken something in you. You know, the Bible says that the kingdom of God suffers violence and violent men take hold of it. Now, I'm not telling you to pick up an axe and go running out, not at all. But what I am saying is, let's be fervent in prayer. Let's be aware. Let us look around with open eyes and see the times in which we are living, and be aware of the dangers and the times in which we are living. That is what is so important. And I'm going to be talking more about this in some segments that are coming up. But before we even continue looking at all of these different parts of Islam and these different things we're looking at, I just wanted you to understand that the leaders of Iran believe in this specific branch of Islamic eschatology, that called the 12ers, and that their desire is to see global catastrophe take place in order to summons the return of their version of the Messiah, known as the 12th Imam or the Mahdi. And so as you continue this week, I know it's kind of like a pretty crazy topic, just let God be speaking to your heart. Let God be speaking to you and saying, God, how can I pray? What can I do? How can I be part of the solution? How can I be part of the thing that you're wanting to do and helping? And make sure you keep tuning into our Israel Update channel. There's a new show every Friday for you at israelupdate.org, and we will continue putting new teachings in this partnership. Again, thank you. You are all amazing, and it's only because of you that we're able to do any of this. God bless and have an amazing week.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace to you all. My name is Saba Ahmed. I'm a law student at American University. I am here to ask you a simple question. I know that we portray Islam and all Muslims as bad, but there's 1.8 billion Muslim followers of Islam. We have 8 million plus Muslim Americans in this country, and I don't see them represented here. But my question is, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons? How can we ever end this war? The jihadist ideology that you talk about, it's an ideology. How can you ever win this thing if you don't address it ideologically?
Great question. I am so glad you're here, and I am so glad you brought that up because it gives us an opportunity to answer. What I find so amazing is, since the beginning of this panel, which we are here about Benghazi attack against our people, not one person mentioned Muslims. We are here against Islam, or we're launching war against Muslims. We are here to discuss how 4 Americans died and what our government is doing. We were not here to bash Muslims. You were the one who brought up the issue about most Muslims, not us. And since you brought it up, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big of the United States. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died, almost 14 million in concentration camps, 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? And since you are the only Muslim representative, save the applause till the end. Thank you. Thank you. And since you're the only Muslim representative in here, you took the limelight instead of speaking about why our government, and I assume, are you an American? You're an American citizen. So as an American citizen, you sat in this room, and instead of standing up and saying a question or asking something about our 4 Americans that died and what our government is doing to correct the problem, you stood there to make a point about peaceful, moderate Muslims. I wish you brought 10 with you to question about how we can hold our government responsible. It is time we take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs and stop calling it
House of Destiny. Our mission is to be the hands and feet of Jesus in the most desperate places around the world. When you give, you are part of that mission with us. Consider Abraham's blessing from God in Genesis 12. He said, I will bless those who bless you. When you understand how important it is to God to bless his chosen nation, you will truly be blessed. We believe that when you sow into Israel, you are sowing into your own future. Click the red link below and be a blessing to Israel.
Shalom warriors, shalom Abraham friends, shalom Israel partners. And I'd just like to give you a quick update and just the state of mind now in the state of Israel concerning the current events that are happening now as we are approaching our general elections on September 17th. There's a lot of things that are happening around us in the Middle East and within Israel. And we can sense that these elections and Benjamin Netanyahu is really in a very crucial way targeted by the enemies right now that tries to undermine his campaign and actually doing anything and everything they can in order to make sure that he's not going to be re-elected. And we can feel how wild is the enemy and how crazy the things are, which it's unprecedented that the attacks are happening within Israel, outside of Israel, even from the sides of some Americans, like the 2 congresswomen, the far left congresswomen, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, that are also trying to add their attacks on Israel and on Benjamin Netanyahu. The Hezbollah in the north is uplifting their tunes, and Nasrallah is speaking more boldly and more seriously about trying to attack Israel. He even threatens, and he says that if Israel is going to invade into Lebanon in case of a war, they're going to transmit live broadcast of destruction of Israeli tanks. Within Israel, we saw the day before yesterday that Israel had to retaliate to a missile that was once again launched from Gaza Strip into civilian grounds in Israel. A few days ago, again, we had a terrible attack on the Temple Mount when two youth came with knives and tried to stab and kill police officers. And thank God that our troops were resilient enough and intercepted this attack immediately. Yesterday, we had a Palestinian car in Gush Etzion ramming into a brother and a sister that were waiting on a bus station and badly injuring the brother and the sister. We see that there is higher tunes and higher flames around Israel trying to undermine our government and our prime minister, because I'm connecting this to the upcoming elections, because we have the Palestinians, the Arabs, the Muslims state of mind right now that if they are going to launch multiple attacks over Benjamin Netanyahu, they know that his hands are tied up and he doesn't want to go into a war just now, 3 weeks before the elections, which can undermine the way for him to be reelected and the possibility for him to be reelected. And the game that they're playing right now is on both sides. If they're going to provoke Israel to enter into Gaza or to start some kind of a war right now, obviously the center and the center left are going to go far deeper into the elections to elect their own people so they can get against Benjamin Netanyahu, and they will make a higher rates of voting and more of them will go to vote. And the right wing definitely, if Benjamin Netanyahu is not going to go into a war, which is not going to go usually into a war before in elections, they're going to be very frustrated with him, and they'll vote for the smaller parties because they say that if he's in the center right and he's not having enough power to go to a war and take out our attackers, maybe they should undermine him from the right and put more pressure on his hands, and therefore there'll be more and more votes lost in these elections, and would maybe force Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party to go into a coalition that they don't really want to go into, or even much worse, if the other side will take the elections and the center left or the far left will take the elections in Israel. So we can sense and feel, specifically with the two congresswomen from the states, that they are participating in demonstrations against Israel, protesting against Israel, BDS movements, and they were thinking to come here and provoke from within Israel. So Israel, as a democracy, we granted them the ability to come into Israel, but then we learned about their plans and the programs to undermine the elections and to provoke from within Israel, getting connected with very far left-wing organizations in Israel. We banned it also, obviously, when Benjamin Netanyahu was asked by Donald Trump to do that. So he, of course, agreed not to let them have the hand within Israel to provoke Israelis to go against the government. And then Rashida Tlaib was trying to speak to our Minister of Interior Affairs, to his heart, and saying that this is a humanitarian effort. It might be the last time for her to come to visit her old 90 years old grandmother. And obviously our minister gave her the ability to come over here on a humanitarian act, and he said that you can come and visit your grandmother, you're more than welcome and everything, but don't participate in any political demonstrations and protests against Israel. And immediately we unfolded her plot, and she said and she wrote, "No, we're not coming. I don't want to go under this kind of conditions and terms," which actually revealed her true face, that she only came here to provoke. And it was really sad. Our minister said that he wished that she would love her grandmother more than she hates Israel and the Israelis. So you understand these demonic spirits that Israel has to deal with right now. It's very, very harsh times within Israel.